3 days after my daughter said it at her birthday dinner. If my mom disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. The phone I had given her stopped working. I was sitting at my small kitchen table when I received the confirmation from the carrier that the line had been suspended and the device was being blacklisted. I remember reading the message twice, just to be sure I understood what I had set in motion. My name is Charlene Halberg. The story began the night of my daughter Evenly's 28th birthday dinner in North Loop, Minneapolis. The restaurant was bright and loud, the kind of place with floor-to-ceiling windows and warm light on polished wood. I had paid for a private room. I had also given her a new phone, $930 on a 24-month device payment plan, under my account, because her credit history still carried the mark of a failed startup from 2 years earlier. She was live streaming when she opened the box. Her friends leaned in, laughing, filming her. She held up the phone and said, smiling, "If my mom disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. She's like a light bulb, always there." The table laughed. I was standing a few feet behind her, holding my glass. I heard every word. For a moment, I thought I might correct her, or at least ask what she meant. Instead, I set my glass down and nodded. I am not proud of how calm I was, but I think I had already been preparing for that moment without knowing it. 6 weeks earlier, I had met with a retirement planner. He showed me projections I had never forced myself to calculate. If I continued covering Evenly's rent, insurance, and debt, I would not have enough savings to carry me through retirement. Around that time, I sold my house in Bloomington, the one I had finished paying off years ago. I moved into a smaller condominium in St. Louis Park. While organizing paperwork for the sale, I compiled 10 years of records transfers, loan payments, deposits. The total surprised even me. The comment at dinner did not create a plan. It clarified one. That night, after I returned home, I removed Evenly as an authorized user on my credit card. I drafted the formal notice to terminate my guarantee on her month-to-month lease, effective in 30 days, as allowed under the contract she had signed. The next morning, I reported the phone as lost under my account. I told myself I was not disappearing. I was stepping back. I did not call her. I wanted to see what would happen when the light bulb was no longer quietly working in the background. When the phone went dark, the rest of the structure was already loosening. Evenly tells people she works in digital marketing. She does. Technically, freelance contracts, brand partnerships, short-term campaigns. Her income fluctuates, but online it looks steady. Photos from rooftop bars, product launches, weekend trips. I used to scroll through her posts and feel proud. I also knew the numbers behind them. 4 years ago, she signed a 12-month lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in North Loop. After the first year, it rolled into a month-to-month agreement. Her credit had taken a hit when her startup collapsed, and the landlord required a guarantor. I signed. I paid 2 months' deposit so she could move in quickly. When her business failed, there was an outstanding balance with a vendor and a small legal claim. I withdrew $83,000 from my retirement account to settle it. The penalty alone was over $8,000. I remember staring at that line on the statement and thinking, this is what protection costs. Evenly knew I helped. She didn't know I covered the car insurance, the utilities when her account ran low, or the gaps between contracts. She'd say, "I'll get you back when the next client pays." And I'd answer, "Just focus on your work." I meant it at the time. 6 weeks before her birthday, I sat across from my retirement planner, a quiet man named David. He looked at the projections on his screen and then at me. "If you continue carrying this liability," he told me, "your retirement won't sustain you past your late 70s. I nodded like I understood immediately. I didn't. Not emotionally. It took time for that to settle in. Selling the house wasn't revenge, it was arithmetic. Moving into a smaller condo wasn't dramatic. It was necessary. I had built a system around my daughter's life. I was only just beginning to understand what would happen when that system shut down. The morning after the dinner, I began making changes. I logged into my credit card account first. Evenly was listed as an authorized user. I removed her name. The confirmation email arrived within seconds. Her card would stop working, except for any pending authorizations already in motion. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to, then closed it. Next, I canceled the automatic payments tied to that account utilities. Streaming subscriptions, a few recurring charges I had set up years ago when her income dipped. Each cancellation required a separate confirmation. I moved through them slowly, reading every line. This wasn't anger. It was procedure. I drafted the guarantor withdrawal notice to her property management company. The lease had converted to month after the first year, and the contract allowed me to withdraw with 30 days written notice. I sent the letter by email and certified mail. The manager replied later that afternoon. "We acknowledge receipt. Tenant will be notified." I contacted the phone carrier next. "I need to report a device as lost," I told the representative. She asked for verification. After I provided it, she explained that the device would be blacklisted within 48 hours. Once that happens, it won't connect to any network. She added, I thanked her and ended the call. Evenly wasn't on my ID, but she was on my family sharing plan. I removed her from the family group. Instantly, shared subscriptions and shared purchases stopped, and she was pushed back to the free cloud tier unless she paid for her own storage. It didn't erase her life, but it removed the cushion she'd been leaning on for years. I also closed the linked savings account in my name that we'd used for her business expenses and moved the remaining balance back into my retirement plan. That evening, I sat in my smaller condo and opened an old photo of Evenly at 6. Missing her front teeth and grinning at the camera, I hovered over her contact name. For a moment, I almost called to explain everything. I didn't. This wasn't punishment. It was withdrawal. 2 days later, I learned what happened through someone else. A woman from Evenly's building, who also happened to know me from years back, called that afternoon. Your daughter had a scene at a cafe this morning. She told me carefully. I thought you should know. I didn't ask for details. She gave them anyway. Evenly had been out with 3 friends in North Loop. When the check came, she handed over her card without hesitation. The server returned a minute later. I'm sorry. It's declined. Evenly laughed and waved it off. Run it again. It declined again. One of her friends leaned back and looked at her. I thought you owned your place, she said. Not cruelly, just curious. Evenly pulled out her phone, probably to transfer money or check the app. The signal was still working then, but the card account no longer recognized her as an authorized user. She told the server, there must be a banking error. Another friend covered the bill. Afterward, she texted me. I saw the message later that evening. Mom, did you change something on the card I didn't answer? She called. It rang once, then stopped because I'd already moved my number to a new line and shut the old one down. That night, she posted a short message online. Funny how people disappear when you need them. It gathered a handful of sympathetic comments, but nothing more. No one attacked me. No one defended her strongly either. The first crack wasn't financial. It was social, and once a public image fractures, it doesn't seal neatly again. 48 hours after the dinner, the phone stopped working. Evenly tried to call me that morning, but by then the device had already been flagged. She later told someone from her building that the signal dropped mid-text. No bars, no data. She assumed it was the carrier. She restarted it twice. Nothing changed. She went into the store that afternoon. My phone just died. She explained to the technician. It's brand new. He checked the number. This device is listed as lost under the account holder. He told her, we can't reactivate it. I am the account holder. She pushed back. He turned the screen toward her. My name was there. Evenly didn't have the password for the account. The phone was effectively useless on cellular, between the blacklist and the account controls. She couldn't just walk out with a new SIM and pretend nothing happened. She could still power it on, but it couldn't function the way she'd been using it. Her wallet applications were tied to that same profile. Within a day, she couldn't access ride shares, subscriptions, or saved payment methods. That evening, she received an email from her property manager. I know the wording because she forwarded it to my old address, not realizing I had closed that account too. Your guarantor has withdrawn. It read, please provide a replacement or 2 months deposit within 30 days. She called the leasing office. There has to be a mistake. She told them, there isn't. The manager replied, we followed the lease terms. The next morning, she applied for a personal loan online. It was a modest amount, enough to cover the deposit. The application was denied within minutes. Debt-to-income ratio. Prior delinquency from the startup she believed was behind her for the first time. The problem wasn't a card. It was structure. Later that night, she opened the black backpack I had left outside her apartment door. That night, Evenly finally opened the black backpack. She called me once more before unzipping it, when it went straight to voicemail. She muttered, fine, and set the phone aside. Inside the bag, there wasn't cash, and there wasn't a letter written in long paragraphs. There was a folder, clean, organized, labeled. The first page was a 10-year expense summary. Rent transfers, insurance payments, utility gaps. I had covered quietly. Credit card balances cleared when her contracts ran late. A total printed clearly at the bottom, $487,320. Below that, a smaller line, her documented contribution over those same years, $61,400. She flipped to the next document, retirement withdrawal statements. $83,000 withdrawn to settle the startup debt, a penalty listed beneath it. $8,300 paid in early withdrawal fees. Then the legal settlement paperwork from the vendor who had threatened litigation. She had told friends and investors stepped in. The name on the transfer was mine. Finally, the guarantor agreement, her signature on the bottom page. There was only one typed sentence clipped to the top of the stack. You said no one would notice. She called me again. This time she left a message. What is this? You didn't have to do all that. You chose to. Later, she phoned one of her former business partners. You told me we had investors. She pressed. We did, he replied carefully. Your mom wired the settlement. That was the first crack in her narrative. I'm told she paced her apartment for nearly an hour after that. Anger first. Then a rush of explanations, then quiet. For years she had described herself as self-made. The numbers didn't argue. They just sat there, plain and exact. That night, for the first time, she stopped posting. 30 days passed quickly once the notice became real. Evenly tried to fix it at first. She called 2 friends and asked if they could co-sign. Both hesitated. One told her, I'm not comfortable tying my name to that. The other said, I thought your mom handled this. She went back to the leasing office a week before the deadline. I just need more time, she insisted. The property manager kept her voice even. Without a new guarantor or 2 months deposit, we can't extend the lease. I've lived here 4 years, and your guarantor has formally withdrawn. We're following the contract. There wasn't room for negotiation. The structure had shifted, and she wasn't used to standing alone inside it. In the final week, she began selling things. 2 designer handbags went first, then a set of bar stools she had once posted proudly online. The parking lot of the Target in Roseville felt like a stage for her humiliation. She handed over the Dior lady bag, the one she'd flaunted at brunch, to a stranger for $800 cash in crumpled 20s. She didn't check the cash. She just stared at the empty space on her passenger seat where her status used to sit. The money covered part of the move. On the last day, she packed her apartment into rented plastic bins. No one from her usual circle showed up to help. One friend, Mara, came quietly and carried boxes without comment. After an hour, Mara paused and looked at her. You treated her like she couldn't leave. She told evenly, not unkindly. You talked about her like she'd always be there. Evenly bristled. She didn't have to do this. Mara tightened her grip on the box. She didn't have to keep doing what she was doing either. That was the closest anyone came to defending me. Evenly moved into a smaller rental in northeast Minneapolis. The building was older, the unit narrower. It wasn't unsafe or desperate. It was simply ordinary. The luxury apartment was gone. The social image attached to it faded quickly. The anger she felt still rose. But it didn't land anywhere solid. The numbers from the ledger had already done that. Evenly found a retail position in Edina 3 weeks after moving. It wasn't marketing. It wasn't glamorous. It was stable. On her first day, the manager walked her through the register system and the weekly sales targets. We start at $17 an hour. He explained. Hours depend on performance. She nodded. Quieter than usual. Her first paycheck came 2 weeks later. She stared at the amount deposited into her account and then at the deductions. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. The net was smaller than she'd imagined. That can't be right. She told a coworker, It is, the coworker replied, scanning inventory without looking up. Welcome to payroll. That night, Evenly sat at her kitchen table with a notepad. Rent, utilities, internet, groceries, gas. She wrote each number carefully, then compared it to her take-home pay. There wasn't much margin. For the first time, she understood what it meant to operate a life, not just decorate one. A customer raised her voice at her during a return. This policy is ridiculous, the woman complained. Evenly could have snapped back. She didn't. I understand, she answered evenly. Let me see what I can do. Later, she told Mara, I used to think Mom exaggerated how hard things were. Mara folded a sweater on the counter. She probably stopped talking about it. Growth didn't arrive in a speech. It showed up in small calculations and swallowed pride. Evenly kept going to work. She kept paying bills on time. She stopped blaming the system. For the first time, she began wondering what it would mean to face me without asking for anything. 3 months after I left North Loop, Evenly found my address. She stood outside my condo building in St. Louis Park for nearly 10 minutes before pressing the buzzer. I let her in. When I opened the door, she looked thinner, not fragile, just sharper around the edges. You humiliated me. She began immediately. No, I answered. I removed myself. She stepped inside but didn't sit. You didn't have a life. Evenly. You had a subscription to mine. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped paying the premium for a version of you that wasn't real. I'm 62, and for the first time in 20 years, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. wondering if your landlord is going to call me. Her jaw tightened. For a moment, I saw the old reflex anger as defense. Then it faded. You could have warned me. She pressed. You didn't have to let everything collapse at once. I did warn you, I replied evenly. Every time I paid something you didn't know how to pay. Every time I asked you to learn where your money went. That's not the same. It is, I said. You just didn't hear it. Silence stretched between us. Not dramatic, just heavy. She looked around the condo. It was smaller than the house in Bloomington. Functional. Quiet. You sold the house before my birthday. Yes, so this wasn't impulsive. No. She swallowed. You planned to disappear. I planned to retire. I corrected. There's a difference. Her voice dropped. Do you know how it feels to have your friends look at you with pity, Mom? To have the server stand there while you fumble for a card that you know is dead. I felt like a ghost in my own neighborhood. Charlene's response. That wasn't pity. Evenly. That was the sound of the world finally seeing you without my filter. It's uncomfortable, isn't it, being real? I imagine it felt sudden. It did. It wasn't sudden for me. I said, I've been carrying that weight for years. She looked down at her hands. I didn't know it was that much. You didn't ask. That landed harder than anything else I'd said. After a long pause, she met my eyes. Are you going to help me if something goes wrong? I took my time before answering. I love you, I told her, but I will never rescue you again. She nodded once. Not in agreement. In recognition, there was no hug, no apology that erased the past. She stood there a few seconds longer, as if measuring the space between us, then walked to the door. I'm paying my rent myself, she said quietly. On time. I know. When she left, the boundary remained where it was. 3 months later, I walked past the store where Evenly works. I didn't plan it. I just wanted to see. Through the glass. I watched her assist a customer who was frustrated about a return. The woman's voice was sharp. Evenly kept hers steady. I understand your concern, she told the customer. Let me check what options we have. No defensiveness, no performance, just competence. When the transaction ended, Evenly thanked her and moved to restock a shelf. She looked tired, but focused. I noticed her phone on the counter. Not the $930 one, a simple, older model. I didn't go inside. Instead, I sent a message from the new number I'd finally given her a week ago. No emojis, no lecture. Just 4 words, I see you, Evenly. I watched through the glass as she picked up her budget model phone. She didn't look around for me. She just stared at the screen for a long beat, her shoulders dropping an inch, and typed back, I see me too. A few minutes later, she added, I earned it. I stood there longer than I expected. My retirement account is intact. My condo is paid down. I sleep without fear of running out of money at 75, Danny. Those are not small things. Evenly pays her own utilities. She's rebuilding her credit 1 month at a time. She doesn't post much anymore. Evenly isn't a light bulb anymore. She's a person. And for the first time in 28 years, I'm not her insurance policy. I'm her mother. I traded $500,000 for my daughter's soul. Was the price too high? Or did I wait too long to send the bill? If you were in my shoes, would you have picked up the phone? Let's talk in the comments.